Hi, my name is Randy Dawn with Gold Derby. Today we're talking with Brandon Scott Jones, star of CBS's Ghosts, where he plays Isaac Higgintoot, a late soldier in the American Continental Congress who didn't die on the battlefield. Instead, he died of dysentery. But his afterlife now has him residing in a New York home with both the living and his fellow ghostly dead. And for a time, he even found romance with a redcoat named Nigel. Brandon is a former member of the Upright Citizens Brigade and co-wrote and starred in the movie Senior Year and has appeared in shows like The Good Place and Renfell. So let's go, Brandon, and talk
Hey,
ghosts.
all right. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. One of my favorite things about the show is that, like, by making Isaac this soldier in the Revolutionary War, he's kind of the earliest version of Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the American
Yeah,
military.
exactly. Yeah. I know there is something, it's what's so fun about it is that he was sort of like fighting for a country, or in his brain, he's so jazzed to be at the beginning of America. And he's not even sort of realizing that maybe some of the stuff he's doing is kind of working against who he is as a person, you know? And so I think there's something kind of like subversive about that, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of secret subversive things about the show that I want to get into in a minute for sure.
Sure.
But what for you makes him so much fun to play?
I mean, honestly, like his little like ruffle cuffs is that's very fun. I like having that. That's like a nice little fun thing to play with. I mean, like in general, like I enjoy playing characters that are desperate, and he is a desperate man who wants to be liked. He wants to be remembered. He wants all these things, and I think he's kind of trapped in this world where he has to live with his legacy, and now he has this opportunity to change it. And so I think that desperation sort of comes to the forefront even more so. And so for me, it's that desperation that I just love so much.
Right. And I'm not going to say that you are a desperate person, but I'm wondering how much of Isaac's personality is like on the page and how much of it is your own, that you've been able to incorporate over the
I
seasons.
mean, like so much of it's on the page, right? But I think as you sort, I mean, we're going into season 5 now, so I'm sure there's some elements of him that sort of have now just like kind of molded with me. For me, it's like the stuff that I think that I bring is a little bit of that flair of that dramatic element to it. Like he tends to be less soldiery sometimes, like in that reserve. So when he has these outbursts of emotion or these like moments where he's just like trying to get people to react to him, that to me, not that I'm that person, but I think like that's the type of stuff that I have the most fun bringing and playing, that side of my personality, that dramatic side. Growing up, I was always told like to stop being so dramatic, and so now I get to use it. And so it's great.
I was going to say, and there's also a little part of all of us that wants to be like, pay attention to me, look at me, I'm valuable, I'm oh so smart.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I was like, yeah, like it's that first child energy of like, look, mommy and daddy, look at
Right.
me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in previous seasons, but certainly in this past season, Isaac has kind of given us a lot of reasons to understand why he's still stuck on Earth and hasn't been, removed
Oh yeah,
yet. Um,
100%.
what's his problem? Why can't he just like settle into a nice afterlife with Nigel or something?
I know, I know. I think that's a great, what's his problem is sort of like something that should be when he's properly moved on a gravestone for him, because like it's like he's somebody that I think is so like kind of rude his time alive, and now he has this opportunity to like sort of maybe adjust it a little bit. And I think that knowing that, I think it's almost overwhelming for him. And so when you think about like settling into a nice life with Nigel, nice afterlife with Nigel, I think he's wondering, I'm like, oh my God, like maybe there's more out there for me, even though he's trapped in this house. You know what I mean? So I think it's that he has to learn to accept himself, not just for who he is, but for how he is with other people. I think and who he is for other people. And I think if he can do that, hopefully that'll move him forward.
We were talking about subversive things. Am I the only one who's mildly astonished that the phrase sucked off can be used on a broadcast TV show, CBS no less?
Can you believe it? I mean, like we get that, we get jerked off, we get sucked off, we get go down on us. Like that's the stuff. So Yeah, it's like it's wild that they get away with it, but I think we've done enough to establish it as like canon that I think we're okay.
Yeah, you're definitely safe now. I'm just like I'm in awe of the person who initially put it in the
Oh
script
my
as
God.
like we're gonna get away with this totally.
I know, I know. How lucky are we that we get to do it? When that I think Hetty was the first character to ever say it on the show, and I just remember we were all like dying when that came up in the script. It was so fun.
So tell me a little bit about how his past season has gone. I mean, I know he pivoted to writing a vampire book with Sam.
I
Like,
know.
tell me a little bit about what Isaac's last season has been like.
He started the season trapped in a hole with Patience, the crazy Puritan ghost played by Mary Holland, and that was like the most fun. And there's this moment in the very beginning where it's like, like at the end of last season, he had just, left Nigel at the altar, and then he was dragged into the ground, and you just think for a second that like maybe this is him getting his comeuppance, right? Like, or he's finally being forced to atone for not just the things he's done in his afterlife, but maybe the stuff that he's done when he was alive as well. And I think that there's something fun about, for him, like wanting to be a better person. I think he's realizing, albeit very slowly, he's a very slow learner, but like he's realizing that he has to make some adjustments and some changes. And so this whole season, I think, was started in that, like, literally the lowest point you can be, which is underground already. And then he's slowly trying to find moments and little opportunities to kind of be a good person, to be more selfless, to realize that it's not all about him, and that it's him and his relationships with all these other people. And so yeah, and so we get to do all that stuff, and then of course he has all those trials and tribulations where he like freaks out because the stripper that he's in love with dies on the property, and then suddenly he's like and you just see how he still has a long ways to go. But I think that's sort of like his journey is going to be, I think, when he finally gets sucked off, if he ever gets sucked off, I think it's going to be because he's without intentionally trying to be a good person, he just becomes one, hopefully.
Right. And
Yeah.
just for those who maybe have not seen the show but are watching this interview, sucked off means that they get to go, they leave the house. The ghost leaves the house. They've achieved their nirvana or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Until we do our one season on HBO, and then all bets are off.
um, how obviously you're from a part of the world where there was a lot of battles and
Mhm.
war was fought there. How knowledgeable were you about the Revolutionary period in American history before you took
Uh,
on this role?
I'm kind of I'm not too knowledgeable. Like, I mean, ironically, like, this isn't, I guess, ironic. I'm not using that incorrectly, but like we would go. My parents would take me and my sister every single summer to Williamsburg, Virginia, and so really a lot of that Revolutionary era, that is where my brain goes to immediately. But when it came to playing the character, it's interesting because the show doesn't necessarily obviously doesn't take place during the Revolutionary War times. So there was this desire where I was like, oh, I'm gonna like really research the history and really research everything. And I tried to do that. And I kind of realized midway through that maybe that's not the right research for this particular character, that because he's only 1/10 of the show, you want to, I think the base point really is, what do we know about, what do we as a collective people recognize to be true about that time period? Like, what are things in pop culture? Like, there's that movie The Patriot, there's 1776, there's Hamilton, which was like really, really, really popular. And so I think I tried to look at what the like oh like where does the Revolutionary War stand in like pop culture or in the zeitgeist, and build from there. But that being said, as I've been playing the part, I've slowly been learning more and more and more, which has been really, really, really fun.
I think one of the things about the American Revolutionary War is it doesn't get nearly as much play as, say, like all this British history
Oh, I know.
and castles and all of that. We seem to love that, but we don't pay a lot of attention to the American history part of
Yeah,
things.
no, we don't. But you know what's the I have like a memory of like Like I remember like do you remember like the Disney had like the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere and like had those, and I feel like that Americana is the thing that sort of he's holding on to even more so than the like the actual time period, right? Because he's grown so much with the world. I mean, grown, but like he's experienced so much more than that. So yeah, it's interesting. But you're right, it doesn't get as much play. You don't see as many shows or movies set during that time. It's Civil War and on, you know what I mean?
And I'm wondering, you once said in another interview that you feel like Isaac is constantly one step to the left of history.
Yes.
That suggests to me that maybe he might fit in very well with the current rollbacks we're seeing in American politics these days. Without
Yeah.
turning this into a political conversation, because I don't
No,
want to go there, what do you think about that?
oh, about where he would stand right now and so
Yeah,
forth.
like would he fit in well, or would he also?
Sadly, I think he would in this administration, I think he would fit in great. And the reason is I think he's a little bit more fair weather than we would like to admit, for sure. He in this particular climate that we're in right now, you'd like to think that you'd have somebody who maybe like stands up and sort of like fights for something a little bit more like what's right and kind of bucks the trend, but I have a feeling that old Isaac would just kind of take the easy route. You know what I'm saying? He's a company man through and through. And so I think it doesn't matter who's running the company.
This is a good point to make.
Yeah.
All right, so pivoting away from that, like, I mean, you've been playing Isaac, I think, for more episodes on any TV show that you've ever been on.
Yes.
How does that change your feeling about the character, and what are you doing to keep it, interesting and lively?
Great question. You develop a we've done I think like 70 something episodes right now, and to have played it for that long really gives you this opportunity to kind of like him in ways that no one else does and hate him in ways that no one else does. So like you kind of can see it from the inside out. It's so funny. Like I was talking with the showrunners about this recently, and I was just like, they have to think about all the characters, but I really only think about my character, not selfishly, but like I spend more time with it. And so there's so many moments and so many things where you're like, oh, I think he would like that. And you can kind of retroactively or retrofit a justification in your brain as to why he would, but there's no way to ever explain it to anybody. So you just kind of have these like natural instincts that sort of come up with it. But then from like an acting standpoint, the thing that I think has been the most challenging to play in that volume is, when you're doing 22 episodes a season, maybe you have a handful of episodes here and there where you're sort of integral to the plot. But in a show like this, you're very much part of like the peanut gallery a lot of the times, which is great and super fun. So it's finding ways to be Isaac in the moments where he's not really being Isaac. He's just either standing there, he's in the background, it's those in between moments that I think you don't really think about when you're breaking down a script, right? Because yeah, or maybe a better actor does. I'm just saying that now and I'm like imagining like Gary Oldman watching this being like, what? No, but I think it's those little in between moments that I think has been like the most fun, and finding little ways to like play with your ensemble when you're not necessarily integral to the plot of the scene or the plot of the episode or what have you. So yeah, that's been my personal journey with it.
Right. And I've heard about that from actors too, about it's the
Mhm.
in between moments, or like if you're doing a live audience, when the audience laughs, how you handle that sort of
Mhm.
pausing period sort of thing, where a lot of the acting can actually go and happen. So you often seem to get cast in these roles where these characters are a little up their own noses or maybe deliberately snarky. Do you take that personally? Why do you suppose that is?
Yeah, I know exactly. I wonder. It's like it does make you wonder how you come off in like social situations where people like are like, hey, it'd be good for that. And you're like, wait, no, I genuinely, I'm trying to be a nice person. It's so funny. Sometimes those characters feel as far away from who I am as a person as possible. So maybe that's the reason they're so fun to play. But then again, it's like one of those things where you have to take a long, hard look in the mirror and be like, is this me? Maybe I am this type of person. Like when I was on the other two, the thing that I remember loving about that show was that he would make snarky jokes, but like at his core, the character of Curtis was like a good dude, like a good friend. And there was something so fun about playing like the genuine side of it. And so to like not play like these like uppity kind of like I guess like the word that you would see in a casting breakdown is sassy. And so to, you know, I'm always interested in playing more of that side of things. But then I do wonder, I'm like, I guess it's a fun way to access that part of me that lives, I'm sure it exists, right? We all have that little clap back in ourselves, right?
100%. And also this way you get to have catharsis on camera and get paid for it rather than doing it.
100% catharsis. That's what this is all about, by the way. This is paid therapy.
Exactly. And congratulations on getting the 2-season renewal.
Thank you.
What are you hoping is going to happen with Isaac next? What's sort of the dream story you really want for him?
Oh gosh. The dream story for me is, I guess with Isaac, I hope that he continues on this journey of trying to figure out what he needs to do to move on. And I think there's something, again, just inherently subversive about the concept of the show. Whereas if you are rooting for these characters, you're kind of rooting for them to leave. And that's like very, very strange way, because you want them to grow and you want them to figure out like, oh, okay, I'm here for a reason. And to that point, my dream is actually less about Isaac and more about the house, and that we all sort of almost have like a season, like a Lost type season, where we start realizing maybe like connections and reasons why we are there, that we all have that sort of desire. I think that could be really, really, really fun. And I think, and then along the way, you just, find little moments for him to, be selfish, but then also try to be, the opposite of selfish, which he probably doesn't know the word for.
So what else are you working on right now? Not that you're not busy enough with the show.
Oh my gosh, no. So I write, and I've just been working on a couple projects that I'm very excited about. But I don't know if I legally can talk about yet. But yeah, so like that's pretty much what it is. And then I'm recently became a homeowner, and so now I'm just like, thank you very much. I'm just like stressed out of my brain, like thinking about it. Like I was like going through the inspection process, and they were like telling me everything about the house, and I was like, what are you telling me for? And I'm like, tell my landlord. I've never. I'm like, I've only rented my entire life, so I'm very, very. Oh my God, I'm so nervous to become an adult. I still feel like Kevin McAllister every time I go to the grocery store. And so I'm like, what am I doing, trying to be a homeowner?